So does any group want to go first?
I can go, I guess. So our group was the public action group, and I think we all found it very beneficial and constructive. We had the agricultural producer perspective from Walt, Carrie, and Susan, as well as Sarah and Holly, who represented some of the organizations working with these issues. And some things we kind of concluded were the importance of bridging the rural and urban demographics and providing more educational outreach opportunities for that, and having targeted and consistent messaging when we do these events, as well as providing incentives. Holly had mentioned even providing incentives for people to attend these meetings, like agricultural producers, people who don't have much free time on their hands. And we had talked about the importance of reaching out to people who need to be brought into the discussion, who might not otherwise be integrated into this. And one kind of tangible thing we had come up with was the possibility of doing a kind of welcome package for newcomers to the Valley, maybe with like a video to provide some background as to the history of the Valley, such as the agricultural aspect, as well as water use and things that they can do to help reduce their water footprint. And then one other thing I'll mention briefly is the importance of coordination and organization between relevant nonprofits working with water, and maybe having like an annual meeting for all of them to get together and to try to better coordinate with these efforts.
Thanks, Nathaniel. So you were on community outreach and activation.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a takeaway that you had personally?
Well, for me personally, I guess something I just thought through the whole thing was how important that was, to do this event, and how we can further this going forward. I mean, we've created kind of a public sphere to discuss these issues with a variety of different stakeholders. And so I think trying to come up with ways of expanding that going forward are going to be really important, just of building more of a sense of community. And, like I'd mentioned, bridging the rural and urban groups, especially.
With kind of that, I think you framed it as an annual type of meeting to keep that community going.
Right. Yeah. I'm just trying to think of other possible ways to facilitate that, so that we can kind of understand the various perspectives in this issue, and for agricultural producers to understand newcomers coming in, as well as the newcomers understanding their perspective and the ecological role, things like that.
Holly and Sarah, were you both in that group? Do you two want to chime in? You two are kind of doing similar things to today, and you're going to be in this challenge a lot longer than I will be, because your lives are kind of embedded in it. How did that lab kind of work for you, and where do you see these projects and kind of the community culture around like that activism?
Yeah, thanks, Tate. Yeah, so I think, Nathaniel did a nice job of summarizing what we spoke about. I think there was also a lot of discussion about what's already happening, because there is a lot that's happening. And one thing I just might mention is that GWC is just received funding to start early next year a coordinated, facilitated stakeholder meeting, which will be, you know, a series of quarterly sessions over the course of 18 months to bring all of the, many of you have participated already, but together to think about solutions to a lot of these issues that we've discussed today, and to update the watershed restoration plan. And so, you know, we're just beginning, well, I shouldn't say that. A lot of you have been working on this for many, many years, but I think the role of the Watershed Council, we're seeing more and more, is helping to coordinate efforts that are already going on and making sure that there's communication between all of the different groups. And so that's the goal of that, that work that will be beginning in early 2021. Yeah, so just I guess a little plug for that. Corinne had said we could also sort of request things to the group during this time. And one request, and one thing I was lamenting during our session that we had over the lab, is that there are many new faces that I see on this call that we've not connected with, particularly the developers. And so I would love to, you know, reconnect with many of you that we've not connected with, and try to build those relationships more, and wish that I would have had, you know, more of a chance to do that today, but look forward to having at least met many of you, and, you know, building on those conversations after today.
Yeah, and I'll just add on, you know, the Conservation District, the big thing we do is, you know, public outreach to folks, whether it's education, workshops, and just helping provide resources to landowners and residents in Gallatin County. So, and we do a lot of that already, and we're working on ways to expand on that even more. So, working together with, you know, we work with the Watershed Council quite a bit, and just working with all of these other people in the room here, just to help get the word out of what organizations are doing, and how folks can make a difference themselves. So kind of that public outreach informing public action.
Thanks, you too. Carrie White, your hand's up.
Yeah, thanks, Tate. A couple of things I brought up, possibility of an interactive map that people can access. I think Holly said that they are developing some sort of an interactive mapping thing that's going forward. And I think kind of listening to Walt in our subcommittee meeting, it was interesting when the river commissioner was going to cut the canal, cut the water diversion out of the canal. There was people that were upset because they thought that the canal supplied water to the river rather than taking water out for irrigation. So I think that's the knowledge that's lacking from the new people coming here, that needs to be pushed forward in education, and an interactive map around the valley showing all of those canals and the benefit of those canals in the agricultural community. And that those canals, once that water's used, goes back into those rivers in most cases, back into stream flows at some point in time, and ultimately ends up down by Logan, most everything in the valley. So it's not like you take the water out of the river and it's gone. But a map like that would kind of show the public exactly where those water diversions are, what the water's used for, and where those canals go and where those ditches go, and that infrastructure that's out there that supports agriculture, which is important to the Gallatin Valley.
Wow, I love that. That would be a really interesting map to check out. I like that a lot.